We are doing this finally. Like, it feels like this has been so, I don't know, just long awaited or whatever, because it feels like we have not talked about just Gilmore Girls in so long. Like, I've mentioned it in other videos, but we have not just talked about Gilmore Girls and Gilmore Girls alone in a very long time. But this time we're coming back, as in me, myself, and I, and we are going to discuss these episodes in a different format. But right after I'm done speaking in a second, it's gonna play the reviews that I did for 2 other episodes in this season that came after, like, where we last left off. And then we're gonna get back to this, and we're gonna dive into the next 2. Well, we're not discussing Here Comes the Sun. I just personally, guys, please do not get mad, but I don't really like the Here Comes the Sun episode. Like, honestly, when I see it, I kind of understand why it didn't take off. Like, it almost is like this really confusing thing in a way too, because you got Anna that shows up and she's not Anna, and then it's just like, it just feels so random. I don't even really like episodes like that. Like, when they did that in the Vampire Diaries with the originals, I hated it too. Like, I liked the originals, actually. I finished all of the originals, but I did not like when they randomly, like in the middle of the season, and I know why they do it. They do it so they can test it out to see if people actually want to see it, or like just give you a taste of like what they're working on. But I didn't feel like Jess needed a spinoff. I just didn't. I didn't feel like he needed a spinoff. I didn't feel like it was a good watch. Watching it, I don't want to. I just don't want to watch it. Like, I don't care for it. It's just not my favorite. But anyways, enjoy these 2 reviews that I did for 2 separate episodes, and then I'll be back. Okay, so let's talk about season 3, episode 18 of Gilmore Girls. If you missed the last episode review, please check it out on my channel. So the episode starts off with Lorelai and Rory deciding to tell Emily and Richard that Rory will officially be going to Yale. The Independence Inn is still being repaired. Tobin, the night manager, comes in like a ray of sunshine, so naturally he has beef with Michelle. I'm not even gonna lie, at first when I watched this, I thought that Tobin and Michelle had like some kind of actual relationship, or I thought maybe they dated and broke up. Is that supposed to be implied here, or am I tripping? Or is it supposed to be like some kind of just like naturally, because he's the daytime manager, he's the nighttime manager, like that's why they got beef just off rip, and because their personalities are like night and day. Michelle staring Tobin down while he talks to Lorelai was cracking me up. Also, I never even noticed that when Tobin is leaving, he stares down Michelle. I actually stopped eating bagels myself because I heard that they were like glued to your organs. But you know, nowadays, all food is poison. All food is poison. So what are you gonna do? Might as well eat a bagel at this point. Paris calls Rory asking her if people are still talking about her at school since her meltdown. It's Lorelai's birthday and Rory's trying to get together this birthday celebration. And I thought it was cute. Like, she wanted to make the largest pizza in Connecticut or in Stars Hollow. Yeah. We get some Rory and Jess in this episode, and this is where we get the "you looked it up" scene that is kind of iconic. Like, I see a lot of people when they make edits, this is one of the main scenes that they use. And Nicole wants Luke to meet her parents, which, I mean, I get it. You're just not Lorelai. It doesn't matter what you say. You're just not Lorelai. Luke watches Jess not go to school, like act like he's going to school, and then he ends up turning and getting into his car and going to Walmart to work. And this is like the beginning of Jess's downfall. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I kind of agree with him just getting rid of the car, because I feel like even Luke knew it, like that if he just confronted Jess and was like, hey, I know you're not going to school. Like, if he just said that from the beginning, Jess was just going to lie about it or find a way around it, or, you know, like I admire that he really tried to work with him and just fix whatever the problem was that was making him not go to school. And the whole thing about Jess not going to school, I don't necessarily feel like it was a financial thing. I mean, obviously he's not helping Luke pay bills and whatnot, but I think that for one, Jess was bored. I don't think he was being challenged as much as he probably wanted to be or needed to be. And there's also some factors here, I think, playing in about his low self-esteem and a lack of confidence. Like, I don't think he really thinks he has a future. I don't think he thinks that he's gonna go anywhere in life, so he just chose to stop going to school. And I almost kind of believe that when he says to Luke, like he has it all under control. I kind of think he really believed that. Like he really believed that he could juggle it all and do it all, and obviously that wasn't true. Lorelai meets with Richard and he gives her a check for $75,000. I talked a lot about this in another video, one of my Emily Gilmore manipulation videos, but I would just reiterate the point. I think this was so stupid. He shouldn't have put Lorelai in a compromising position like that without letting her know what she was getting into in the first place. Like, I get it. It seems like, well, why was he having like this private lunch or whatever with her? But Lorelai didn't know anything about the investment. She didn't know anything about the money. And once she found out, he gave her no nod, no notion, nothing to tell her not to tell her mom. I feel like we should look at this situation one more time though, because the fact that Jess did not even know that Luke was the one that took his car, that to me is a symbol of his immaturity. Like, cause I would have immediately questioned Luke, because he was obviously like, he knew that Jess wasn't going to school. So, I mean, what else is gonna, like, did he really think it was, he really naive enough to think that there was not going to be any consequence to him not going to school? But that's the common theme with this entire situation, because he really thinks that he can juggle not going to school, working basically a full-time job at Walmart. He thinks he can juggle all this stuff and that he's not going to get caught, that nobody's going to find out. And it's just ridiculous. Then Luke turns around and he meets up with Nicole's parents in the worst state possible. He's like losing it in front of them because he knows that Jess is not going to school enough to pass. Emily and Richard bring out a cake for Lorelai's birthday, and Richard thinks that Lorelai is 36. How do you not know how old your child is? I can't make this up. I discussed the parts of this episode with Emily in another video. So this episode of Gilmore Girls is episode 19 of season 3, and it is a very, very hard episode. It was a hard episode to write notes for, to get through, and I really wanted to be extremely delicate with how I approach the subjects that are brought up in this episode. So bear with me and let's begin. So the episode begins and it's Lorelai and Rory on the couch discussing what they should do since they're not going to Friday night dinners anymore. Landon and the band are trying to come up with their band name, and they're getting ready to perform at Kyle's party. By the way, I've been watching that show with Kristen Bell and Adam Brody in Nobody Wants This, and it's really, really good. Check it out if you haven't had a chance. Jess is already kind of on the verge of a meltdown, but Rory doesn't know that yet, and her asking him to go to prom just kind of, I feel like it brings everything to a head at this point. Lorelai has to fire people at the Independence Inn because the inn is still being repaired. And then she invites Nicole and Luke to come up to the inn and stay there, and then forgets. While at a meeting to talk about grad night at Chilton, Lorelai runs into Max. Jess finds out that he's not graduating, and one of my favorite parts is when the principal is like, and humble too. I don't know why, that part just makes me laugh. To be quite honest with you, I don't like Zach, and the way that he was talking to Lane at Kyle's party really ticked me off. Because he was talking to her like she was stupid, and it's like, Dave is getting jealous of Young Chu because he's constantly hanging around Lane because he obviously has a crush on her. You can see so clearly that the stress from not getting his diploma, from not graduating, is getting to Jess, and it's getting to him very quickly. And this is why I really feel like Jess did not actually think that he was going to end up in this situation, and he really thought he had it under control when he was skipping class. He was arrogant, and he really thought that he could do all these things, and again, there was going to be no consequence. And I think that Rory automatically senses that something is wrong with Jess, but she's just not sure what it is, and I think she's probably emotionally drained and tired of like this up and down cycle with him. Also in this episode, Lindsay is being extremely nice to Rory all of a sudden, considering the last time she ran into her, she was acting like she could not care less about speaking to her. Lane decides to drink beer because she's too afraid to tell her mom that she's in the band while she's sober. The next time Lorelai's supposed to be having a meeting about grad night, she confronts Max to ask him why he was acting the way he was at the last meeting. I love that they put a comedic spin on their ending, and I felt like this was a great way to just completely close this Max and Lorelai chapter. Honestly, they were not my faves. Thank God. Paris completely killed her scene. The part where she's talking about, I think she says something that's like, don't worry about Hitler. He's a stand-up chap. Like sarcastically. It's so funny to me. But ultimately, we must talk about this scene because it has garnered so much attention from the fandom. Like I every time you mention Jess and Rory, this scene always gets brought up. This is one of those scenes where despite how I feel about Rory, I definitely feel bad for her, because it's like she's just caught in this web of confusion, not knowing what's going on, and kind of just like, it's almost like he's taking a lot of his anger out on her. Rewatching this scene was extremely triggering, and probably one of the reasons that it's been such a halt on me releasing a video about season 3, because I just know it's a very big conversation. I've never really talked about anything like this, and like I said, I just want to be extremely delicate with the conversation. When I rewatched it, it was like It was a lot worse than I remembered. There's a very complex answer about what exactly is happening between them in that bedroom. To my understanding, I don't think that the writers intended to write this as an essay scene. However, I do see how this is being looked at as an essay scene. To put it plainly, this is assault. I don't think he began that interaction with the intention of actually assaulting her. I believe that in the early 2000s, this was normalized. This approach to beginning intercourse with a woman was very, very normalized. And it brings me to another video I did. I talked about Big and Carrie and that whole cheating scandal in my Sex and the City videos. And if you pay attention to that scene where they're finally Carrie is, in the elevator with Big, he's kind of just forcing himself on her. If you really pay attention, he's not asking her for consent. It's not any of that. He's just kind of thrusting himself up on her. And there isn't really, even when she's kind of seeming she's not completely sure about it, but obviously, she ends up, sleeping with him and whatever, and it becomes a consensual thing that's fully understood. But in the beginning, she was not verbally giving consent. She did not seem completely sure about the decision to sleep with Big in the first place. But it was never looked at. I don't really see it being looked at as an essay scene. But it is. I mean, in a way, it is. There were things that we obviously know were normalized in the early 2000s and, before then that would never fly now. It was normal for a man to just walk up to a woman and kiss her because, he has this passion. Even if you look at examples in Drake and Josh, the TV shows on Nickelodeon, you just see random scenes sometimes where he just walks up to a girl that he doesn't even know and just starts making out with her, and she starts making out back or whatever. But he doesn't know her. He doesn't verbally ask her for consent. He just begins doing things. And then once she kind of seemingly goes along with it, it just continues. If you look at a lot of shows in the early 2000s, and like I said, beyond, you will see that there's a pattern of men not verbally asking for consent. And the reason that this is problematic is because it became a problem. It set the wrong message to men everywhere. Like I said, I don't believe that Jess intended to assault her, but I think that it was definitely assault. It became assault once she said wait and he did not stop. What adds fuel to the fire is that right after he does that, he backs up off of her, and then it almost looks like he's angry at her for not sleeping with him. Just that transition alone where he backs up off her and then they have him immediately get angry, immediately it sends the wrong message that he's mad at her for not sleeping with him. I've seen a bunch of people say that they feel like he got mad at her because she wouldn't sleep with him. And I see how that is the conclusion, but I also feel like it's a lot more complex than that. Jess is in this really low place in his life where he's getting told no a lot. He's getting a lot of rejection. He's facing a lot of rejection just in general. And I don't think it had anything to do with that isolated moment. And I think it's evident when he says that. He says when she leaves, he says, "You didn't do anything." He's not mad at her because she didn't sleep with him. He's mad because he's failing in life, because he doesn't have a direct purpose. He doesn't feel like he has any direction in his life. And a large part of that is definitely his responsibility. It's definitely his fault that some of the things have transpired. But I also think it's his relationship with his mother, which I discussed on the downfall of Roy and Jess video that I have on my channel. Jess is upset because his life is not turning out the way that he'd hoped. And unfortunately, he does not have the maturity to just go after the things that he really wants, which is why we see what he does later on in the show. And on Rory's end, I totally understand how she's feeling because she is not getting the exposition that we are. All she sees is that he's just having a bunch of outbursts and, anger spells and whatnot. She doesn't understand what's going on beneath the surface. Then he comes out of the room and he sees her talking to Dean, and it's oh my God, it's just constant. I just feel like his biggest issue, it had nothing to do with Rory. It's just about the fact that he feels this constant sense of rejection. He's messed up his life pretty big, but he just doesn't know how to take accountability. And I think that Rory's just tired of how Jess makes her feel at this point.
Wants me to come down and take a look at the damage and discuss some sort of solution.
Fly higher than an eagle.
I love Lorelai. God, I have not watched this show in so long. I missed my babies.
You'll all come to my house. Can't wait.
It was definitely a different time, because one thing you're not doing is coming to my house.
If the guests are going to wear those robes downstairs, we need to buy ones with thicker material. Seeing the sunlight hit Dennis gave me a whole new respect for Peg.
I love when Lorelai says little things that like it's not a it's more like you have to be paying attention because she said that we need to get thicker robes because it's shining a light through the robes, and she said it gave her a whole new respect for Peg, the lady I guess they were just talking to. And I'm just like, it's just one of those things like, you get it, but like
Well, at least the family pressure's off you now.
And I'm like, because I haven't reviewed it in so long, I'm like, what is going on with the grandparents? Oh yeah, when it was Lorelai's birthday and she gave them that check, right? That's where we are.
Blessed are they.
And that's the part, and I've said this a million times if you've seen any of my Gilmore Girls videos, but like Lorelai does not find, like, she doesn't feel happy when she's standing firm on her boundaries, when she's saying no to things. It is not natural for her. It is not comfortable for her. She just pushes through because it's like she knows the alternative is kind of worse in a way.
You were at a Smartie, playing clock music, drinking fear, and in love with Rave Schmigchowski. How would that be better? It's much less clear.
Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
You have to relate.
One of my favorite little running gags is that the Reverend and the Rabbi are like all sharing the same place of worship. Like, I don't know why I find that so hilarious. Just cracks me up. Like, I know some people just feel like he's a little asshole, but like, I find him hilarious.
The day the music died, give me a taffy.
The day the music died, and they were singing bye bye Miss American Pie, no my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was bright. Wait, I'm mixing it up with Family Guy. Okay. After Dean and Jess got into that fight, Luke has to start paying those people back, for all the damage that was caused in the midst of the fight. As Luke gets back to the diner to talk to Jess about what happened and, how he's going to be responsible for paying that money back, this guy was in the diner and he left his wallet, and Luke, ends up looking at, I'm guessing, his ID, and he clearly knows him. So I talked about this scene with Lorelai and Emily in one of my Emily Gilmore manipulation videos. So if you want to know my opinion on it, I'm pretty sure it's the same, and yeah, just check it out. And I think this is where Rory starts to kind of feel like I think she just knows on some level that it's not going to work out with Jess. Like, it's not going to work out. Things are not going to happen. I can see the doubt on her face. When I tell you I love them together so much, truthfully, I just like that he didn't try to change her at all. He met her where she was. He understood that her mother was a little bit stricter than some parents. He wasn't willing to make her abandon who she was to be with him. I think that's the thing that sticks out about Dave the most. He's played by Adam Brody. You really just can't go wrong with Adam Brody playing a gentleman. It just works. Dave shows up to Lane's house basically telling Mrs. Kim that he is not a bad guy. He wants to be with Lane. He truthfully respects her and respects Mrs. Kim's wishes. And, he just wants to take her to prom. That's essentially what he says. But he just kind of goes down this long list of every reason why he's kind of the perfect candidate. And Mrs. Kim gives him a Bible verse, and so he's gonna go try to figure out what it means. Luke shows up to the motel where Jimmy is staying, and Jimmy is Jess's father. He came to the diner earlier and, obviously was trying to scope Jess out. Luke makes it clear that he does not want him involved, and he doesn't want him showing up to throw Jess off of the course he's trying to push him on, which some people may disagree, but you don't get to pop in and pop out in a kid's life. I don't agree with that. I don't think that you should be able to do that. I feel like one of the most important things for kids is consistency. Consistent love, consistent patience, consistent, you don't have to be perfect 100% of the time, but consistency, I feel does play a very big part in a kid's life, if that makes sense. Another thing that this scene was doing for me is letting us get a real insight into the inner pressure that Luke is feeling trying to raise Jess, trying to steer him on the right path, despite both of his parents pretty much tapping out. Like, Liz tapped out on him. She said, this is too much. I can't handle it. She sent him off there, and he hasn't been there from the start. Like, he literally has not been there since the start. Like, Luke says that he was supposed to just run out real quick after Liz gave birth, and he never came back. So yeah, Fran has passed away, and now this means that her end is, like, Lorelai and Suki are trying not to, but they're really starting to think about if it's possible that they could be the future owners now that she's gone. What I love about this scene is that, like, there's no dialogue. It just shows how they keep missing each other. I think what's happening is she wants to talk to Jess, but she just kind of feels like what's the point? Like, where is this really gonna go as far as I think she's just exhausted. And then he wants to talk to her, but he doesn't know how. What both of them keep doing is convincing themselves or talking themselves out of talking to each other before they even give it a real chance. That played a part in their downfall. All this time, it's like going back in here to rewatch the show, and I completely forgot about it. Oh, I hate him so much. Okay. How you gonna propose to your girlfriend right after you just got done beating on a dude who your ex-girlfriend is dating, because obviously you still have feelings for her and you want her to take you seriously? And next, I ain't gonna lie, she did have some good points. And also, like, why do you care? Why do you care whether she approves or is happy? Like, if it was literally just to tell her because you didn't want her finding out from anybody else because y'all have history or whatever, like, okay. But I'm saying, just, okay. Obviously, this is just headed down the toilet. And in my opinion, the reason that Rory says it twice, that Jess doesn't treat her like dirt, is because she does feel like he treats her like dirt, or she does have some kind of feeling like he does. It's just become apparent to her that everybody can see that too.
Please, just tell me. I'm so tired.
It's not.
Shakespeare?
That is a very difficult thing to do, reading the Bible. The person who's going upstairs to think about what she's done.
Lane is...
Lane! Think about what I've done!
He looked tired as crap. He looked tired.
So apparently we're all supposed to walk like Fran.
It's almost...
Lorelai said, she said, apparently we're supposed to walk like Fran. I can't get over how good Melissa McCarthy's hair looks in this season. Or I don't know if I can't remember now, like, it's been a minute. I can't remember when her hair got like that, but it looks great. So Suki and Lorelai ask the guy who is like in charge of what happens with Fran's end, what's gonna happen with it, and they end up getting the news that they're gonna get it.
Your clothes, learn to read.
Oh my God, he's playing on the radio. Oh, lean on me, man. Your California ticket down in Suffrage City. Oh, lean on me, man. Oh my God, I like that one. Jimmy shows up to Luke's diner for what reason nobody knows, other than to tell Jess that he is his dad. And I don't know. I agree with Luke that he should just, like, you've been gone this long. You might as well just stay where you was at.
You look different?
Yeah, he's gonna look real different from when you last saw him after he was born. I ain't even care. That's my favorite part. But, like, this should show you, like, this is why I defend Jess the way that I do, because this should show you that this is learned behavior from him. Because, first of all, his dad left after he was born. His dad is a leaver. His mom dumped him off on Luke. And just now, when they're sitting there, after he just told him, hey, I'm your dad, and I haven't seen you in, like, forever. Yeah, and he just dips. He just leaves. It's almost like, I just talked about this in my video talking about Desperate Housewives, where it's like, sometimes you become like the people you really don't want to be. Sometimes we become like people in our family or our environment that we started out telling ourselves we didn't want to be like. It happens. I'm not saying that it makes everything that he's doing okay. I'm just saying that I feel like that's where it's coming from. And also, I feel like, how can you know to get help for something that you don't even know is a problem, that you don't even know is something that you're inheriting in that way? Like, obviously, he knows that. We'll get into this next episode, probably. Rory ends up explaining to Lorelai, like, what happened in Kyle's bedroom and the fact that she just feels exhausted emotionally from dealing with Jess in the first place. And like I said, I think that's why she never, like, actually went into the diner. You get tired of trying to talk to somebody, and every time you do, it's like you just hit this wall and you don't get any closer to, like, having answers about what's going on. So you give up. Eventually, you just let go and you give up, because it is exhausting. And I think that's the simple way of putting what's happening here. I still don't think that Jess was mad at her because she wouldn't sleep with him. I don't think that's what it was. I think that he just kept hitting these blocks. And I explained that, obviously in the other videos, but I still don't think that's what it was about. I think it was a lot deeper than that.
Then you gotta go.
Ooh, chill. Ooh, that will never not get to me. Like, I thought at some point, you see it so many times, you're done. I'm literally sitting here about to cry, because it's like, I understand both of their sides. I understand Jess. He has no motivation. He doesn't see his life. He doesn't see what's happening. He can't see more than what's directly in front of him. And he is depressed. Like, this is depression. That's what, like, oh my God. And then you have Luke, who is so frustrated because he's like, dude, we can handle this. Like, you can get past this one phase of your life. You are talented. You have value to this world. You just can't see it. And it's standing in your way. And you're never going to be crap if you just keep on, like, oh my God. Like, I just, it just makes me so emotional because, like, it's so real. It's so real. I'm not just talking about one person. I'm talking about multiple people that I've known over the course of my life where I find myself in these situations. I can see the goodness in someone and the greatness in someone way before they can see it. And you just keep fighting this battle of, like, trying to convince them that they are good enough. And then you just lose. And in fact, they end up hating you in the process. And then you become even more frustrated because it's like, I'm on your side. Oh, that was... Whew. I've known a lot of Jesses in my life. I've known a lot of people like him who just are stuck. And they don't even know they're stuck. They don't even know that what they're battling is bigger than them, but they can get through it. And it's hard to watch. So, okay, moving on. And it just makes it so sad because I know that she knew. I just feel like she knew. She knew that he wasn't gonna call her. She knew that something was going on. She knew, but she just couldn't do it. Like, she just couldn't have another heavy, like, interaction. Rory's world is so polished and shiny that, like, this was way too heavy for her. I agree. When I think I was listening to the podcast about Gilmore Girls with God, I know his name. I want to say Scott. I know it's Scott, but I don't know I forgot his last name. Oh my God. I was listening to the I Am All In podcast, and I remember at one point, the guy who plays Luke, Scott, he was saying that he feels like Jess's storyline, if they involved him too much, it was going to get too dark. And I agree with that. I definitely agree with that, because that was touching on some deeper topics. And I think they wanted to keep Gilmore Girls more like, it's supposed to be a comfort show. Honestly, like, he wasn't gonna last. I think what he was is exactly what he should have been. Maybe a few more scenes, just because I enjoy his character so much, because he's so complex. But other than that, I don't think that he could have just been like a series regular in the way that maybe like a Suki or like, like a supporting character. I don't think that was possible. That's just my personal observation on it. But this scene is so sad because, it's the end. It's the last time that she sees him in this way. I don't think he had the vocabulary. I don't think he had the confidence to tell her anything. And ultimately, him not telling her, him and his lack of communication was their downfall. So sad. Like the fact that he can't even read the book, and the book is, books normally comfort him or whatever, and he can't even do that. He's just looking out into the distance and thinking about how badly he screwed up. His story just breaks my heart, but yeah. One of my favorite tropes is the chosen family trope. Kind of like how in Friends, like Rachel is this almost lost soul in a way, and then she ends up, reuniting with Monica, and she takes her in as her own, and they all kind of help her get on her feet in a way, like, and they become her chosen family. I love that trope. This scene particularly, like, it sticks out to me because because Paris says this, and if you know how this whole Gilmore Girls thing like kind of ends, like it is funny. Like, I won't say too much
Because I'll never look better than I do now.
why did that give me vibes? Like, remember when Samantha had those nude photographs taken because she said that her body would never look the same or it would never look as good as it did in that moment? That reminded me of that. Oh my god, wait a minute. Could she play a young Samantha? I discussed the parts about Emily Gilmore in my Emily Gilmore manipulation series. You get the point.
For Rory. It's a big gift, a little extravagant.
How is there no echo? Didn't that used to happen with home phones? Like, if you were too close to another person and like you were on the phone, like it'd be this loud, annoying noise. Emily and Richard call Lorelai to ask if they can go and buy Rory a car for graduation, and of course Lorelai says yes because it would help her be able to see Rory more once she goes to college. There's a guy going around the Independence Inn, which I'm assuming is Mia's son, and because I think he said mom or Mia. I couldn't really hear because I had the white noise. But anyway, so he's basically just says that they're leaning towards selling, and it's kind of sad because Lorelai was like, I grew up here and Rory grew up here, so it's just depressing. Lorelai comes over to let Suki and Jackson know that the Independence Inn is being sold and that they're pretty much all out of jobs now, and that there's going to be a wait on opening up the Dragonfly.
And since I'm your vegetable supplier, I'm losing work. That
Rory shows up at the Gilmores to basically reinitiate the Friday night dinners, but it's only her from now on, not her and Lorelai, so that Yale can be paid for and so that Lorelai can still get the Dragonfly. I am kind of breezing through this because it's just been a thing lately where my videos are getting demonetized. They're not getting taken down, which is also good, but it's like they're just getting demonetized because I guess of how many scenes I'm using, which I've had this problem multiple times in the past. Like, this is nothing really new, I guess, but it is frustrating when you spend a lot of time working on something and then it just gets demonetized, and it's like I don't even think I'm showing the whole thing. In fact, some of the videos I'm talking about, I just showed the pictures. I didn't even show, I just showed pictures of the episode. I didn't even show actual scenes, but they still got demonetized. So just trying to be careful with that.
Thank you, Mom. You're my guidepost for everything.
How can you not cry after that scene? How can you not cry? It hits even harder when you think about it from, oh my God, please do not let me start crying. From a parenting perspective, because that is really that's all you hope for. I know I do. At the end, the graduation, the turning 18, you just hope that you've done the work to not only create a good, empathetic person in the world, but also to knowing that you did a good job, just knowing that you have that bond and that you have been a role model for your child. That will never not be. It's just so important. I just love that this didn't turn into some negative moment. It didn't become some reminder of the people they don't have in their lives. They even had Paris have, her nanny that practically raised her. They didn't bring her actual parents, which not only stayed true to the story, but it also still gave Paris the support that she deserves. So it's so heartwarming. Luke tells Lorelai that he's still gonna go on his vacation. And I like how subtle this is. I like that she's still smiling, but you can see it gently start to kind of fade because she knows that she's potentially pushing him into the arms of another woman, but she can't, for whatever reason, come out and just say that she likes him and that she wants to be with him. But I also feel like maybe it's that she's not sure. Like she doesn't want to wreck the friendship and she's not truly sure if she should say something. Sometimes one of the hardest things that we can do is to let go of people even though there's still love there. Like sometimes I think in my experience in the past, like I've tried to push myself towards hatred for people because it makes it easier to let them go when you truly hate them or when you don't like them, or like when you just push that relationship dynamic to the point of hatred, it makes it so much easier to walk away. And one of the hardest things to do is to walk away from someone even though you still have love in your heart for them. And I think that's the case for both Jess and Rory, is that they do both still have love for each other, but Jess doesn't know how to love Rory the way that she deserves. He doesn't even know how to love himself. So it's hard for him to care about another person the way that, again, that they deserve. In the past, there was a time where I watched this scene and I would feel like, oh no, they should have still, or I would have had unresolved feelings about it. But I think that I'm at a place now where I can look at them and think, like, it's okay that it didn't work out, and it's okay that he wasn't the one. You know, they're the definition of right person, wrong time, in the sense of Jess was not emotionally mature enough to love Rory properly, and then Rory became someone that I don't feel like fit Jess anymore. And I also saw this theory on TikTok recently where someone was talking about, they were talking about how Rory often mirrors whoever she's with. With Dean, the person that she was with Dean was not the same person she became when she was with Jess, and the person that she was when she was with Logan is not the same person that she was with Jess, and she just kept evolving into different people, but they always kind of match the person that she was with at that time. So I thought that was a very interesting theory, and if I can find the original post, then I will definitely link it in my comment section.
Sure. What?
When I first saw this scene, I thought it was real. This moment was such a classic Lorelai and Rory moment, and it just fit. I just love how they stay true to the characters. Like, in my opinion, I don't feel like they're pushing certain things just to make a moment. Like, they're sticking true to the foundation of these characters. Like, this is something totally I can see Lorelai doing this. And then even with Jess not responding, not saying anything to Rory on the phone, while it was very frustrating to watch, because it's like, dude, say something. But it also is very true to his character. Like, why would he all of a sudden have this moment of like what work has he done, have we seen him do to help him articulate himself in a way that is exactly what Rory needs, if that makes sense. And that wraps up this season. We finally finished it. And when I say we, I really mean me, because I know it was like my fault, but like we finally got through it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. We are definitely still on track. We're going through each of the seasons. I will not end this channel without finishing the rest of these seasons, because I know that a lot of you are interested to hear my thoughts on the other seasons. I guess that wraps up this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.